Hello and welcome to the What Northern Ireland Means to Me podcast, presented by me, Julia Paul. This series has been produced by Shared Future News to mark the centenary of Northern Ireland and is funded by the Heritage Fund on behalf of the Northern Ireland Office. Shared Future News provides information and personal stories on the topics of peace building, reconciliation and diversity to a Northern Ireland audience and beyond. In this episode, the writer and commentator Malachi O'Doherty tells us what Northern Ireland means to him.
I think in some ways there's a wave pattern in history in Northern Ireland, and the wave pattern being one between trouble and peace. A lot depends on where you were born on that wave. I was born in a peaceful wave, in a dip if you like, in 1951. The state was 30 years old then. Obviously as a child I had very little consciousness of politics. I had some consciousness very early on of sectarian division, but not of sectarian violence. And then I saw the crest rise, and it peaked, I suppose, when I was 20, 21. So I came into the Troubles phase with an awareness of what preceded it. The most powerful motivation to travel was the violence here in 1972. And went to England, and from there travelled on a few years later to India and came back in 79. I mean, people talk about the 80s and the 90s as the height of the Troubles. I mean, it's complete nonsense, because by 79 we were already going back down into the trough, you know. Certainly there was a lot of violence. The hunger strikes had yet to happen, but it was a way of life that you could live in 1980 that you could not live in 72. I am not committed to the unification of Ireland, and I am not adamantly opposed to it ever happening. I do think Northern Ireland deserves some credit for having evolved. I mean, if you're looking at the origins of Australia or the origins of North America, you're looking back at criminal genocide, right? And still and all people can adapt to celebrating that the emergence of a modern democracy in the United States and in Australia are good things worth marking. So I think it's churlish to acknowledge that and to say that you could never celebrate Northern Ireland. But there aren't many places in the world that are a lot better than this, you know. I've heard people say things like, oh, Northern Ireland's a third world country, it's post-colonial, it's a victim of oppression, it's suffering apartheid. I'd say, would you ever go and catch yourselves on? Would you ever go and look at what apartheid was? Would you ever go and look at what life is like in a third world country, you know? There is a problem of deep sectarian division in this state. The potential for political players to irritate the fault line is still there. And the potential for people to respond to that irritation and seek opportunity to create mayhem through violence is still there. My generation, born into the trough, didn't stop that happening in 1970. And the gorgeous, affable, well-intentioned young people of today might not hold it back the next time either. Maybe what we're looking at is something like, if you look at the wave pattern of a boing, you know, as the frequency dies down, the wee troughs, the wee waves get shorter and shorter. So we're maybe looking at something like that. And certainly we've got a political middle ground now, which we didn't have. There were moderate unionists and moderate nationalists in the past, but now there's a very large section of society which refuses both those labels. The scale of that is new.
What Northern Ireland Means to Me is produced by Shared Future News. Our staff include Alan Leonard, Alan Mabon and Julia Paul. Our theme song is Figure in the Fog by Jordan McMurray, with thanks to Music Paths. This and other episodes with transcripts are available at the Shared Future News website, sharedfuture.news. You can also follow us on Facebook at Shared Future News and Twitter at Shared Future. If you would like to suggest someone for a future episode of What Northern Ireland Means to Me, please email us at editor@sharedfuture.news. Thanks for listening.